I don't know what the issue is, but there is a delay in the video with the audio, and it's really bothering me. But I'll have it fixed in the next couple days. We had this issue before. I don't know where it's coming from. I don't know where it's stemming from. But what I do know is there's some things to talk about. Okay. Before we talk about this Kawhi Leonard fiasco, because we know that that's still going down, and it's interesting. Okay, people can say, "What are we talking about?" It's interesting. All right, it's Spurs news because hey, you wanna feel validated, you want to feel vindicated. Well, you absolutely should. Okay, a lot of people are like, "Why aren't you guys over the Kawhi Leonard situation?" And I think honestly, funny enough, all Spurs fans are over it. Like, I would argue that we've been over it for a while, right? Maybe since the beginning of the rebuild. Like, no one's really been thinking about it. We don't really care. But with this, hey, it's interesting nonetheless. Now, if you're laggy, clap your hands. Yeah. So bad. But I do want to talk about this, and also Jake in the chat actually sent me a DM, and he had a really good perspective on the entire thing. And he was like, "Hey, Clan, I think you might have missed a few things." So I definitely want to read his DM, go over this. Before all of that, guys, we're kind of cooking. I know this is off. I usually don't put this in the video. I usually just like talk about this on live stream, but I just really quick. I'm actually excited about this. Maybe we'll talk about it after the segment, but yeah, I wasn't that excited for Scary Movie 6 initially, but this looks pretty promising, right? They're gonna make fun of sinners, Heretic, Long Legs. That's just too easy, man. I don't like that movie, honestly. Nope, Get Out. I'm excited for it, especially since the Wayans brothers are actually the ones writing it. Because Lord have mercy, man. Scary Movie's been bad since after the second one, honestly. And then you even have Jane, the director of I Saw the TV Glow, and she posted, she was like, "Dear Mr. Wayans, are you taking submissions?" I don't know if enough people know about I Saw the TV Glow, but give it some props, okay? It's a really good movie, so hopefully they can make fun of that one too. But with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into this. Let's make fun of Kawhi Leonard. We're doing our own little scary movie here. If you're a Clippers fan, this actually is a scary movie. All right, so let's take a look here. So let's see what they have to say about this whole situation, because there's a little bit more to the story here. There's some other things coming up. You guys can't hear that. You should have said some, chat.
Biggest takeaway of everything that's transpired, and where are we right now?
Well, Steve Ballmer mentioned in that interview that Aspiration had actually tried to bid on the naming rights of what became the Intuit Dome. The Intuit Dome ended up being named for $550 million. And he said in the interview, well, they bid more than that. Well, from what I understand from Clipper sources, they bid almost double that $550 million to name.
So you're telling me that Aspiration bid $1 billion for their name on the arena? But sure, Ballmer had no idea what was going on. He didn't find any of this suspicious. Sure.
The Intuit Dome, and they were turned down because the Clippers wanted to go. This was Ballmer's explanation. They wanted to go with Intuit, which is a long-standing company. But that gives you an indication of the kind of money that this company was throwing around back in those days. Now, obviously, the NBA investigation will want to discover all of the documents that prove that, or prove. Steve Ballmer said this is provably false. He referenced an email that he says from November of 2021 where he introduced Kawhi Leonard to this company at Aspiration's request. Well, they'll want to see that email and other emails. They'll want to see everyone's cell phones. And so we are at the beginning of a very, very long process.
Very strange. I don't know. I don't really like the framing of this, like the idea that, they just kind of bamboozled the Los Angeles Clippers. I feel like it's one of two things, okay? Number one, he knew exactly who they were, right? And he was just going to try to help out his boy Kawhi. Or number two, the bidding was so high because he wanted them to force the bidding war to go up, right? He wanted the money to go up on it. Some people are like, why would he waste his time with that? I don't know, money. I mean, multi-billionaire. I don't know, money, probably. But at the end of the day, we don't know. But I don't like the framing of this in general. Like, I'm just not buying it. I think that's a little silly to think that he had no idea about aspiration and they just bamboozled him. I don't believe that. Okay. He should have known if that was an issue with the whole, this company's bidding $1 billion. You don't think that's a little strange? Sure. Whatever. But with that being said, I did want to go over, sorry, I know that there's a delay. It's going to really bother me. It's going to really bother. It bothers me more than it bothers you. I promise. So there was a DM sent to me from Jake. So Jake is in the chat right now. And I wanted to go over it. So I have a couple screenshots here. And he basically said, hey, Clan, you missed a few things, and I wanted to run some things by you. So he has some really great points here, and I wanted to just read through it, basically verbatim. I never knew how to say, how did you say Pablo Torre? Is it Torre or Torre? I'm not sure. He says, hey, Clan, thanks for the follow. So this is kind of a long-winded explanation. So just for the background, I said my Jake. I'm Jake. My wife and I are San Antonio Spurs season ticket holders. My undergrad was in pre-law, and I have my MBA. We'll be going to law school next year. Hey, congratulations, man. It's only important because some of the small details protect Ballmer, but also point the finger directly at cap circumvention. So he goes on to say, I've heard Pablo's interview multiple times, so a lot of streamers are only telling the main point, not really getting to actual details. First, and I think we went over this, we did briefly talk about this, but he says, aspiration putting in a clause that Kawhi Leonard has to be with the Clippers for the contract to pay out isn't the smoking gun most people think it is. What makes the contract look insane is that aspiration had multiple major celebrities under endorsement deals. Yeah, and he mentions all of these. Lame Drake. Yeah, for sure. He says Robbie Downey Jr. And he just basically brings up the fact that Kawhi didn't Kawhi didn't really endorse anything, but he says what's incredibly odd is collectively they were all paid combined a 1/4 of Kawhi's deal. So Kawhi was making 4 times all their other deals put together. Their contracts did not give the same clauses. I don't know what their contracts will look like, but he says second, Cuban made an important point on PTFO, president of the front office. If aspiration was potentially going to go under, it would be in Ballmer's best interest to bail them out, right? Well, when Ballmer was on ESPN, he made a small distinction. He owned around 3% of the company. Why is this important? Well, when Wendy, hold on. There we go. There we go. There we go. All right. He owned around 3% of the company. Why is this important? Well, when Wendy was discussing it, either he or McMahon, made the point that if Ballmer owned 5% of the company, then they could not offer Kawhi the deal. It would have been a violation of the CBA automatically. So Ballmer was in 2 positions: bail them out and openly violate the CBA, or let them go under, stay out of any potential legal fraud, or bail them out and invite legal trouble from the SEC. Between the two, he had to just hope no one would go down a deep dive, which Pablo had to go through over 3,000 pages of documents to find. Ooh, that's a really great point. That's a really great point. All right, and then he says, lastly, the sources Pablo spoke with were not just disgruntled employees. These employees were actual whistleblowers who aided in Aspiration's complete and utter downfall. They are not just ransoms. They were trustworthy enough that they would be considered viable witnesses in a trial. The founders of Aspiration had ties to the DNC as well. Oh yeah, that's what he was kind of talking about for the majority of that initial pod, right? The founders of the Aspiration had ties to the DNC, as one of them was youngest speech writer for a president under Bill Clinton. Dang. Not to try and make this political at all, they were trying to gain a foothold on running the DNC. Pablo lays that out at the beginning of his pod. This is all to say the witnesses had to hold some weight in their testimony. Yeah, okay. And yeah, no, you're not making it. I hate when not you in specific, but I hate when people say like this shouldn't be political. Like everything is political. I know this is like directly politics, but like basically any topic we go over is going to be political in some way. Okay, here we go. In conclusion, Ballmer might not have a full-on smoking gun, but this isn't the court of law. This is the court of NBA owners, and there could be a major issue with how Ballmer decided to circumvent the cap. I'm not sure the Spurs let players live for free in a house in Castle Hills, but there is a house that is next to my best friend's aunt house that has only had Spurs live there. Derek White, Josh Primo, and then Malachi. Sohan lived in an apartment in the Blue Star district that Pop had bought several condos at. This is to say the actual issue is owners' eyes could be he is not doing favors for his players. He is actively giving them money directly through a third party in a way that other owners are unable to match, which is where this could be a massive breach in their eyes. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. So, yeah, So initially, Jake, I hope you don't mind me saying this. Initially, Jake was like, I don't know if I, want you to say this part. And then eventually he was like, yeah, it's cool. Just do it. I think this actually is a really good point to bring up because every owner, every team, they do something for their players, right? There's something that, that they're trying to convince you like, hey, you can stick around. And in some way, somehow, I'm sure that they are paying for certain things or going out of their way, right, to keep superstars. So, yeah, like you said, that's not the big issue. The bigger issue is the fact that you went from from it being in-house to like this third party that no one else can really touch. And another issue with this whole thing too is just Kawhi Leonard and his camp have just been going out of their way to do the most like unethical things you can imagine, right? Like when it comes to trying to get him on these squads. Like we have so many stories coming out of the Raptors camp and now this Clippers camp, and we know that they were trying to force the Spurs to do certain things like bring over Paul George, which I guess that's not that crazy. I mean, a lot of stars try to do that, but it's just an ugly situation. They're gonna go down. Actually, I'm gonna say it right now. This is gonna go down as one of the biggest stories in the past decade. Like this is actually quite huge. But I guess all of us Spurs fans, I say all that to say this, and thank you so much, Jake, for like giving us your input as well. But I say all that to say this: we're vindicated. This is something that was coming a long way. I don't think a lot of us are really that shocked by it, right? It was just eventually going to happen. Something bad was eventually going to happen with this entire thing. Oh, Jake, you said, I just realized you sent something else. I re-listened to it today. ADHD is a pain. And one detail I missed in the main whistleblower who spoke to Pablo was in the finance department, catching stray details every day. He said, Clan, I read that Uncle Dennis was also asking Toronto for a no-show endorsement before he went to the Clippers. After seeing Raptors not do anything and Clippers getting Paul George, he left to LA. Just gross, man. Just gross. And this is coming from a player that has, it seemed, and maybe this is what they were doing, right? Maybe they legitimately weren't delusional and they understood Kawhi Leonard career is not going to be that great going forward, right? I think the Spurs are going to try to take care of him the best they could, a bunch of rest when he can. But I bet you his camp knew we have a small window here to make this thing happen because his health is going to, go downhill, right? So they were just trying their best to get as much as they can out of these deals. That's what I think might have happened. I don't think that they're dumb enough to like actually think Kawhi is like the major superstar, like one of the biggest. I mean, he was one of the biggest superstars, but he's like the biggest superstar in the NBA, and he's going to take over, get multiple rings. I don't know if they really thought that. I don't know. But yeah. Anyways. I see Jason in the chat. Jason, be nice. Everything Jake said here was reasonable. And much of his takes, I mean, what would you really disagree with? As soon as degenerative was diagnosis, they knew it was close enough to a ceiling. Yeah. Yeah, they tried to do all they could. You know, kind of looking back, man, I'm happy Kawhi left. I always knew. This is the funny thing. Some Spurs fans started to panic, like shortly after. Like not the year after, but it was a few years, and then Spurs fans started panicking and just like, oh my God, what are we doing? I never was worried, to be honest with you guys. Like, we've had this channel since Kawhi got traded, right? Like, that's when I started jumping on this channel and talking, and I always had the Instagram page, right? But then that's when I started hopping on YouTube, is when he got traded, because I was so angry about it. But I don't think there was one season that went by where I was in panic mode. And it's because our franchise is just so good. They just know what they're doing. So I was never worried. I was just kind of waiting back and just hoping, you know, we get that next superstar. You know, I didn't know who it would be. I knew Wemby maybe a couple years before we ended up drafting him. I was praying it would be him, but you know, I was open, right? I was open. So, anyways, thank you, Jake. Thank you for your TED Talk. And this whole situation is just going downhill.